For the first time in history, we have two presidents. There's this man.
They failed because, like people around the world, Americans are repulsed by their barbarism.
Then there's this man.
Despite the cynics, America's on the move. It's making progress. Despite all the opposition. There are workers who have jobs now who didn't have them before.
Again, this gentleman.
Their horrific acts only unite us as a country and stiffen our resolve to take the fight against these terrorists.
Then this charmer.
The belief that together we can build up our middle class and hand down something better to our kids. That's what built America. And America's best days are still ahead.
It's weird. Are we sure this is the same guy? I mean, this guy.
And those who make the mistake of harming Americans will learn that we will not forget, and that our reach is long, and that justice will be served.
Can't be this guy.
They should know we will follow them to the gates of hell until they are brought to justice. Because hell is where they will reside. Hell is where they will reside.
I'd call him Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but he's more like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Bean. No wonder everyone's confused. We have a Goofus and Gallant presidency. Gallant with his pals, Goofus with us. Passion for his fans, passivity for the rest of us. And so with the world on fire, our president isn't. At our defense, he's as inspiring as a soggy Cheerio. It's like watching someone take batting practice with a garden hose, or teeing off with a rope, or shooting pool with a butterfly net. Selena Gomez has more testosterone. At some point, the president must admit we're under attack, not by Republicans or evil corporations, but radical Islam. It's not Hobby Lobby. It's hell-bent madmen. But perhaps it's odd for him to confront external threats when you've been taught threats are internal, an ideology cultivated by Ayers and Alinsky. But like it or not, it's time to lead, and not from behind. In a world where everyone is behind, not being in front makes you an ass. It's time to abandon your discomfort over American power. You're not a unionist. You're not a community organizer. You're not a UN diplomat sipping Prosecco at an Italian mansion. You're the President of the United States with the critical role as leader of the free world. There were 43 before you. Let's make sure there's a 45th. Bob, let me go to you first because I know you disagree with me, but I want to agree with you on one point. As long as President Obama bombs, does it matter if he's boring?
No, but let me take this to another level. This is going to cause, I know, some disagreement here, but I think what Obama said about things we need to do here at home, I think the terrorist threat is overwhelmingly overstated. I think we're spending too much time, too much money. There's been more kids killed on bicycles in the last 2 years than been killed by terrorists in this country. We have altered our way of life. We're spending a lot of money. And frankly, the obsession with this is getting to the point the world is not on fire. It's a fire in a certain place with a certain group of people that can be dealt with.
Yeah, but it's a fire that spreads.
Well, you say it's a fire that spreads. Maybe. Maybe. We don't know that yet. And that's my point.
But we've had
we're waking up every day as if this is spreading. It's right next door, but it's not yet.
Yeah.
And so I think that, you know, and I know you disagree with me, but I'm just saying that there are a lot of things I'd rather have us deal with at least equally here at home as we do in this terrorist threat for these thugs in the Middle East.
Well, I would argue that it hasn't been equal since Obama's been president, that he's been obsessed with domestic issues like Obamacare. Eric, Joe Biden on ISIS. Was that President Obama farming out his passion?
I don't know. It almost felt like, the White House, the advisors going, well, he's not going to do it, meaning Obama. Let's see if we can get Biden to do something to at least get people, stirred up a little bit, let them think they're concerned about it. Bob, Senator Feinstein, Senator Franken, Senator Nelson, and a handful of other senators, all Democrats, have said President Obama's lack of strategy is a problem, is problematic, and he needs to develop something.
What does that have to do with what I said?
Well, you just said the ISIS isn't a threat. But apparently, Senator Feinstein, did you not say that we are overestimating the ISIS threat?
I think that we are. Yes, I will say that.
So Senator Feinstein, Nelson, Franken, and a host of other senators, Democrats, don't think we're overstating the ISIS threat. They think Obama should come up with a strategy. Anyway, getting back to from this morning, the presser overseas, President Obama says we're going to degrade and destroy, and then he goes into something about making ISIS a manageable problem. Herpes is manageable. ISIS is deadly. We need to stop playing around with this.
I think we can all agree to that.
Another thought. Why aren't ISIS killing Russians?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Putin's a little scarier than President Obama. We have a strategy for everything. We have a strategy to combat hunger. We have a strategy to combat obesity. But we don't have a strategy to combat the people who are
terrorists kill Russians every day.
I have a strategy. Forget let's move. How about let's bomb?
Okay. Terrorists in Chechnya kill Russians every day.
Okay, but not ISIS terrorists.
Oh,
they're not lopping off Russians' heads and holding the heads up and showing the families.
Well, maybe they don't do that. That's right. But don't say they don't kill Russians. Of course they do.
I want to show that what you're referring to, the kind of shift in perspective of what President Obama had said first about ISIS and then later, and then we can comment on that.
Bottom line is this. Our objective is clear, and that is to degrade and destroy ISIL so that it's no longer a threat, not just to Iraq, but also to the region and to the United States. We can continue to shrink ISIL's sphere of influence, its effectiveness, its financing, its military capabilities, to the point where it is a manageable problem.
Kimberly, that shift from degrade to destroy.
He's on the ground.
Is that a shift in perspective, a wise shift, or was he backpedaling?
Look, I don't think he knows what direction he's going in. It's embarrassing. As our president, we've got the guy on, like, the tricycle that kind of doesn't know which direction to go in. And the UK's got a team in place, and they've got a leader in David Cameron that knows exactly what he's doing. So now today I find myself craving the UK.
Where's their team in place in the Middle East?
The cool taxis and their leader, because we don't have someone that has any idea. Now I'm gravitating towards Biden because at least he figured out who are the good guys, who are the bad guys, and he sounds like he actually cares about it and understands that this is a credible threat.
Who are the Brits on the ground in the Middle East you're talking about?
I'm telling you that they are prepared and are really ramping up in the UK to prepare themselves for any kind of terrorist attack, which is also what we should be doing. They understand the gravity of the situation and that the reach of ISIS and these terrorist groups can come to your front door.
You
don't seem to be able to get that.
I get it perfectly well. I think you overget it.
Dana, I get the idea we shouldn't be in a hurry, but we should be forceful. And there just doesn't seem to be, when you see that sharp contrast between the forceful nature of Obama internally and internationally, it kind of bugs you.
It's not just internally. It's about a minimum wage increase.
Yes, true.
Versus terrorism. Remember, Bob, 2 weeks ago, I got bleeped for saying a word that didn't really need to be bleeped. But it was because I was so mad because you were, I was mad because you were talking about how the threat wasn't as big a deal. And then that night you got a phone call from somebody that was a good pal of yours that is in the know, and they told you that you were being an idiot and that was ridiculous?
About the potential for ISIS in that region, yeah, that's right.
Okay. Do you think you're going to get another call tonight?
No, because I don't think that he believes, or do I believe, that the United States is the imminent threat of this stuff happening. And what we're doing is scaring ourselves and scaring our kids in the process.
Who's
and I want to see what I want to see.
You know what scares me? A president who seems to be asleep at the wheel. His affect is so off, and he's like an emoticon where he's so excited about domestic issues, and he's like this.
Well, you're not worried about domestic issues because they don't affect you that much. But for a lot of people, they do.
No,
I could just pick up on something Kimberly said, because Dana Milbank is columnist of the Washington Post. This morning, his column was about how the president's, this is his words, happy talk is disturbing to people, and that if it looked like and seemed that he was more worried, that they would have to worry less. I think that the White House will have something, will have to answer to something from Congress if they can get their act together to ask it, and I think that they will. And that is about the president's daily brief. Catherine Herridge broke the news yesterday about a former Pentagon official who said that in the president's daily brief, at least since last January, there have been specific information with specific targets regarding ISIS. What could have happened between January and now, so that we might not have been in the crisis situation that we're in? Could we have stopped them from having a territory now the size of Great Britain? We've also shown that the airstrikes that the president has started are very effective. So maybe they are working on some more, but I do think that it's curious that while these other things are going on, especially in Russia, in Libya, that this morning the National Security Council announced that Susan Rice, the president's national security advisor, who is supposed to coordinate a strategy across all the agencies, she's going to China for a previously scheduled trip next week. And maybe the Chinese are all of a sudden going to help us in the Middle East. But I just think on the week of September 11th, I wouldn't have the National Security Advisor travel to China.
Well, let me ask Eric this, because this is one point. I hate to say that I might agree with Thomas Friedman on anything.
I cannot believe it.
I know. I'm sorry.
Don't do it.
I have to get. But he made a point that the beheadings are meant to get us to overreact.
Sure.
And I mean. That's true. Sure. So you could see,
terror is meant to get people to overreact.
Should we not overreact?
I mean, think about this for 1 second. A guy tried to blow up a plane with his shoe, 10 years ago, and we've been every American has been taking off his shoe ever since then. That would be an overreact. That would be a definition of terror.
Underwear
but guess
bomber.
what? The minute you don't and something bad happens, then you lose. What we really do need, look. We're
afraid. Is that a strategy out of curiosity?
He's saying you can't afford to not react.
I see what you're doing. You're sitting back and you're just going to sit back and make fun of everyone else's comments instead of
I'm not making fun of them.
Substantial and substantive to this debate. Here's what we are. We are America who is afraid of a 9/11 that's going to happen in 1 week and 1 day. We don't know what our policy is. We don't know what our strategy is. We don't know what we're doing to combat any sort of terror threat that may be coming to our shore or happening from within, and we have a White House that refuses to give us a definition of what they're going to do, and that's scary. And what we need to do is tell them to let us know what they're going to do, so at least we can get behind something.
But there are people who have a strategy, know what they want to do. The problem is the president is the last one to get along and go along with it, because he can't pull the trigger. He can't make decisions. He constantly equivocates, waits, can't decide. That's why people like Rahm Emanuel left him.
He's not waiting. He's bombing every day.
Oh,
he's bombing every day. He is bombing every day, and it's working. And he is working.
No problem that we're overreacting.
And what is the strategy beyond getting rid of these guys? That's
manageable problem. Make ISIS a manageable what the hell does that mean?
You think you can do what they want?
What does that mean?
You think you can do what
That's the last thing he said.
You think after
we want ISIS to become a manageable. Can you define the manageable problem?
My guess is you're probably not going to do it with an entire group of people completely.
And so what? A few American deaths is okay, so that's manageable?
All I would say to you is that I think that it's like saying you're going to make all radical Islamists manageable or get rid of them all. You're not going to get rid of them all.
I don't know how you can dance around it. It's bad rhetoric. It's like he sat in on a business class in college and he heard the word, make it a manageable problem. That's not what we're dealing with.
You said everybody else has a strategy. Can you tell me what they are?
Ideology. I know exactly what we need to do here, and I wish the president would get on board and figure it out. We need to continue with the bombings. We need to do something about Syria as well. Right. We need to continue to be able to put men and women on the ground to make sure that we have reliable, real-time intelligence gathering. We need to take out the top and central command of ISIS right there, cut the head off the snake, and continue until they stop beheading people.
But you believe that any of that's not happening?
Wait, but there's one thing that's not happening, or we don't know that's happening. I want to ask Dana about this because of we remember Desert Storm. Does President Obama have any international capital to build a coalition at this point?
Well, this is a great question.
Thank you.
In the Syrian Red Line situation, one of the questions I asked was, could you name who in the world is President Obama's best friend on the world stage? Who does he call when, hits the fan? Who does he call to say, we need to get this coalition together? Typically, every president, you could actually name one. It's kind of easy, like Reagan, Thatcher, Clinton, Blair, President George W. Bush with Koizumi or Aznar, even Blair later on. Obama seems to be a little bit alone and aloof, but that is not just my words. That is actually the narrative from everyone. It's saying that this is the way that he has decided to have his presidency.
It's Clooney and Jay-Z.
But he's
right now at the meeting, at the NATO meeting, it could be maybe the president behind closed doors is a master of ceremonies, bringing everybody together, and they're going to come out with a strong strategy.
But in fairness to him, nobody else is doing anything. He is doing something.
But the thing is that the reason that people used to do things with us is because we led.
How many?
Because the leader of the free world, they come along, they said that we're with the United States.
Who else should be doing
confidence in our leadership and our
You tell me.
I don't know, Bob. How many beheaded Saudis have we seen? How many beheaded Russians have we seen? How many beheaded Brits have we seen so far?
Well, you saw a Brit do both of them, didn't you?
What?
The beheadings were done by a Brit, right?
All right, I'm not.
All right, we got to be heading out. Head on the 5.